So my last video about moving to Alberta was kind of me just ranting, and of course it went viral because I was so extremely upset about the Liberals getting into my riding. I said I wanted to move to Alberta. That still stands. But let's get into the reasons why me and families a lot like me are choosing to move to Alberta. So welcome back to the Freedom Pines podcast. I'm your host, Jamie A.B. Today's video, like I said, we're going to be talking about why I want to move to Northern Alberta. So here's the thing, is that for a long time, I was a leftist, okay? And I understand the propaganda against Alberta because I believed it, okay? Until, I'm sure you're new here, so I'll tell you my story. I went to go do, we had baseboard heating in our home. We went to go redo a remodel of our home, and I wanted solar panels because I thought it was the green option, okay? And then I realized that solar panels had a huge tariff on them, and I wasn't allowed to buy them because it would have been my entire budget. And I cried, and because I was like, I don't want to hurt the environment. I'm telling you guys that they brainwash us into thinking that oil and gas is the worst thing that you could possibly partake in when it comes to the planet. And so I looked into it. Why would they have a tariff on this? What is going on? You know, they want me to buy electric and all of these green options. And then I looked into oil and gas because I was like, well, if I'm going to buy, if this is going in my house, I'm going to look at, you know, how it works, what's going on. And that's when I learned that Alberta had the most ethical gas, like ethical practices of getting gas, that pipelines were actually better for the environment because bringing oil and gas over from other countries on a giant boat is not what's better for the environment, believe it or not. And I thought that's very strange. And no doubt in my mind that there are Indigenous people who are maybe against, you know, pipelines and stuff. But I also learned that there was a lot of communities who benefited, Indigenous communities that benefited from oil and gas and who were kind of upset that it was, you know, a dying industry. I always thought it was fishy that out of nowhere, people hated gas. That I was kind of enough consciousness back then to be like, why is there all of a sudden people protesting? And are these people saying that they never want to use gas or oil in their own homes as well? Is that what's going on here? Is that people are okay with exploiting other parts of the land of the world, but they're not okay with exploiting Canada's land? Does that make any sense to you guys? No, it doesn't. I also looked into how horrible and how not green the other green solutions are. And so, yes, I gained a new fascination and appreciation for Alberta, Canada. Why? Because you guys have been thrown down the pipe. You've been thrown down the pipe like Ottawa. You're right. Ottawa doesn't care about you. I know how they treat you. In fact, you know, my daughter, who is growing up with me as her mom, was like, isn't Alberta full of rednecks? I said, hard workers, you mean? Hard workers like dad, how dad works his ass off and how it goes nowhere. Well, in Alberta, people actually, you know, get compensated and taxed a lot less so people can afford to do more. And her eyes just like lit up. And there's a lot of talk online. It's funny because all of these people who bring this up are in the nicest of homes, and they're like, oh, the Hunger Games are coming. Sir, the Hunger Games are already fucking here. The thought of me having to go out today and buy groceries gives me an aneurysm thinking about it because it's so uncomfortable to spend all of your money in one place. But the thing is that if we had more money, okay, because gas is cheaper in Alberta, and so is, like, stuff doesn't have a sales tax on it. And what else? You know, you get paid better for the blue collar jobs out there. Not only that, I'm sorry, you guys. How the hell do I forgive them? How do I forgive the left? I don't think I belong here. I don't think I belong here anymore. Because the left is okay with basically allowing my husband to work because that's what it is when you don't get paid for half of the work that you do, when the government takes half of it. I'm not sure in what other part of history that wouldn't be slavery. But they're okay with it. In fact, when I tell them that things are so bad that, you know, I gave up I don't get lash extensions anymore. All of these things I've given up. And I was like, but even it's hard to buy my mascara. And they're like, well, maybe you need to budget better. Oh, really? Because that sounds like the old style of conservatism that you guys say you hate so much. Okay? People are worried that I'm going to vote NDP. I'm not voting NDP. Rachel Notley is my enemy. Rachel Notley, after I heard that she wanted to go door to door, she made an enemy out of me. All right? Because yes, the only reason why we live in Northern Ontario is because I can't work, because I was forced to take a medication, to keep my job. So my husband has to work double the time to almost get not get the full paycheck at all. And it's driving me crazy. And I don't know how much longer I can watch my husband work his ass off and get absolutely nothing in return. Because Doug doesn't want to open... Doug, hasn't your priority been the electric car sector, and none of those have worked out? In fact, it's put a lot of Canadians on... or laid off Canadians because they have to switch everything over to make it electric. It's obviously a big deal to create gas-powered vehicles and then to create battery-powered vehicles. So these factories get a whole makeover, and none of them have actually gotten the makeover, I think, except for Cami. And so just a bunch of, and that shouldn't be our sector. We have all of Northern Ontario, which is a hotbed of minerals to export. I don't think we should get rid of the water. I wouldn't touch that. But we have the Ring of Fire, we've got to have oil. I think we do have oil, but we have mines. We have all these different things that nobody touches. No, it's too hard to open up business up here with all of the stupid liberal regulations. I am not joking. My whole plan was, okay, let's move to Northern Ontario. Pierre's going to get in. He's going to make Northern Ontario thrive again. Northern Ontario is the Route 66 of Canada. And it's sad and pathetic how much I see. And by the way, when I say my husband has 2 places to work, they're all within 2-hour spans of each other. Not communities. Not even 45 minutes away. I'm talking hours away. Okay. Northern Ontario is a work desert, food desert in most places. And there's no reason it should be, because it should be a hotbed of tourism. We have cliffs. We're like the Alberta of Ontario. Okay. And I appreciate Danielle Smith so much, because even if Alberta doesn't separate, which, by the way, I would be all for, okay? Because it's either I have to move to America or I have to, and I don't even know. America doesn't seem like it's that great right now either. But I said, if Pierre doesn't get in and we're in Northern Ontario, we're going to have to leave, because this is not a viable option for us. It's a viable option for us to wait it out and stay here until we can make some good money. But if the good money's never coming, what do? You move and you pick up your family and you go to where the money is, which is Alberta. And instead of sitting around crying like a leftist, okay, and which I have cried because I don't know how to forgive an entire country who literally plucked one guy out and replaced him in, while allowing things like a Yahtzee to be in our House of Commons, okay? The things that they do to our kids in the schools is horrendous, and they still do it in Ontario, despite Doug being in. And on TikTok and stuff, it's talking about Indigenous people. Indigenous people, why wouldn't Indigenous people want to break from the monarch? I honestly, I'm not speaking for Indigenous people. I've just done a ton of research because my husband is part Indigenous, and that's what the left told me to do. And they hate the monarch. So I just don't understand why breaking away from Canada and becoming a sovereign nation and making yourselves really rich and having your communities thrive would be a problem. I think it's just because Donald Trump is the one that's, the president of America. I don't think it actually has to do with you guys wanting to be Canadian, because Canada treats you like shit. And I'm done. I'm done being in places where your hard work doesn't pay off. I'm done being treated like shit for having a truck, which, by the way, all of you fucking lefties who need help moving have no problem asking people for help with trucks. And I apologize for swearing, because I try not to swear on my podcast, but it's very frustrating because the left will allow fascism to happen as long as it's convenient for them, as long as CBC tells them that it's okay. Guys, they're in my comments on TikTok defending the fact that Mark Carney works for Brookfield. Brookfield's an asset management company. They are quite literally one of the world's largest landlords. I can't do this. I don't feel like I belong. And trust me, guys, I am more of a left-leaning, like I am more center than anything, okay? And I truly believe that most Canadians truly are. Like, when it comes to social stuff, we don't really care, okay? We don't really care about those things. And we all know that the NDP, like, we all know that the Conservatives don't care either. That's the thing, is that the NDP and the things that they push for, this progressivism, it's too progressive. You guys are too progressive. You're actually so progressive, you're doing harm. And it blows my mind when people are so surprised, especially people within the NDP legislator, saying, why would we move from Canada? Because Canada treats you like shit. No matter if you're NDP in Alberta or Conservative in Alberta, you're still going to feel the effects from Ottawa. If they try to go net zero, cooked. It's a cult. It's a death cult. Taking away oil and gas is taking away the lifeblood of a nation. And then they just keep bringing more and more people over. But you want to get rid of the only way that we could heat people's homes? I also learned a lot when I moved to Northern Ontario and realized there's no way. It's funny because Charlie Angus is from here, by the way. There's no way you can exist in Northern Ontario with an electric vehicle unless you're like older and you live in a community that's got your doctor, grocery store, okay? There's no surviving in Northern Ontario without oil and gas. And I'm sick of it. I feel like Albertans and hardworking people like Albertans maybe feel the same type of way when it comes to these things, because we're just done being treated like garbage. And why stay in a province that doesn't like you? They don't want you to get ahead. Why? It's hard to even stay in a country that wants to do that. But like I said, I don't know what's going on in America right now. My plan has always been to stay in Northern Ontario, and I did not think Canada would be that silly to elect another Liberal government. I never thought that I would have to make the decision to move to Ottawa. But what other choice do we have? Is it stay here with people who would love to lock us in our homes, shut down our livelihoods? Is that it? Or do we go to a province who seems to respect the people within that province more than anyone in Ottawa ever would? Because if we don't become the 51st state, as if I'm an Albertan, if we don't become the 51st state, at least some more sovereignty would be great and protections from Ottawa. And even if the NDP people don't want to admit it, you need gas and oil to power this country. And if the gas and oil sector gets shut down, so does your lives. So does your lives, NDPers in Alberta. So, if you're wondering why I'm moving to Alberta, I don't know if I missed anything, but basically, I'm tired of my husband not being paid what he deserves for the hard work he puts in. And judging by the amount of my TikTok followers and beautiful welcoming messages that I have had from Albertans, way more than I ever had for Northern Ontarians, which I'll grant you, there's probably more of you guys in Alberta. And I meant to say just Alberta, not Northern Alberta. You guys are nice. So nice. Not a single person greeted me when we moved in here, okay? Alberta reminds me of what Canada used to be. And their values align with that, and so do mine, okay? And contrary to what everyone else says, don't think Canada was ever a bigoted place, okay? Now, here's the thing. I haven't been to Alberta. I have barely left. We went to Nova Scotia for our honeymoon. That's it. I've never even been on a plane, you guys. I'm so excited because I love amusement parks, and the West Edmonton Mall exists. And I've never seen the mountains. I've never seen Lake Louise, so very excited. And yes, you guys are like, I would do it now. Believe me, I'm trying. Okay. So you guys let me know, is there anyone else that you've heard? I've had multiple people message me, say that they're interested in doing this as well because it's just not worth living in Northern Ontario. Doug taxes us into oblivion and basically takes away all of our services. And for what? I've said Doug has done some good things. I'm not going to sit here and say he hasn't. But overall, Ontario has been abandoned. Northern Ontario, if there could be a word that's bigger than abandoned, it would be there. So you guys have a great day and let me know. Have you guys heard of people wanting to move to Alberta? Yes or no? What do you guys think is going to happen? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because obviously C11 hates me and always pushes me down underneath an algorithm that doesn't exist. So if that interests you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys on Monday. Bye!